Recording in progress.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Public Safety Committee for December 9th, 2025. Welcome, everybody, and I apologize for the delay in getting started. We do have quorum, so here we go. First item of business, any changes to the agenda? I'm not aware of any. No? Okay, let's proceed to public comment. And I'd start with Tom Wright. Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, okay. So my concern is a hope to establish within the county of Tompkins the option of a local currency. A little bit of background. In the 80s and 90s, a new economic principle came into vogue. It was called neoliberalism. And in the ensuing decades, a lot of wealth measured in dollars was floated up to the wealthiest of the wealthy. And this removed currency from working class communities and families. The importance of this is that while they may have created stuff cheaper in order to increase their profits, it removed a currency from communities and counties and even states and countries in some cases. So the importance of a currency is that if you have a trusted currency, each time it exchanges hands, there should be a creation of value. Even if something was stolen, amount of money, if it went back into buying goods and services, it would still get back into the loop of creating value that we can recognize. Feeding people, building shelter, transportation, many of the foundational aspects of this civilization we depend on. So under the current system of Wall Street rules where quarterly profits are worshiped more than human prosperity and security, businesses have to be competitive in order to survive. If they don't make sometimes cutthroat decisions and lay people off, they can be either outcompeted by price or bought out. Of course, some businesses thrive on local customer connections and neighborliness, and that's all to the good, and I would hope a local currency would help such small businesses survive. My real hope is that a local currency would just enhance people's ability to exchange their hobbies. But the current national scene with a climate crisis looming makes me think that a county could benefit from having an option of being able to increase an accepted currency into their local market. Just a little bit about the wealth. I remember during the Great Recession, the headlines in the papers said, trillions of dollars of wealth has disappeared. That was because it was due to the market collapsing, the confidence collapsing in that speculative market. I would argue that wealth disappeared when it went into the hands of the wealthy in order to gamble on the market. Subsequently, the Federal Reserve, with the influence of the government, under the influence of these Wall Street traders, I believe, propped up the system, and the end result was measured in dollars. Those people ended up even wealthier than before the Great Recession. Local money would tend to help mitigate travesties like that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next up, I believe we have Zach Wynn online.
Hello, Rich. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I have noticed over the past few months, and especially recently, numerous individuals I know personally have fallen victim to scams. These are not just elderly people. These are, young and old. And I'm curious what is being done by the county, if not to mitigate these frauds in a criminal sense, but to educate and warn the public about how they work, how to spot them, and how to avoid them. I'm sure you all get the same emails that I do for invoices for McAfee Internet or Bitcoin or all sorts of other phone calls that come in. I know there was a Cornell student who was arrested, I believe back in 2023, who was recently sentenced to around 2 years in prison for a attempted fraud around $100,000 from an individual in Florida through a fake antivirus pop-up. So I've noticed that in my own personal life, I've encountered several people who have fallen victim to these scams. And I would like to know if there's really anything being done, and if there's anything that could be done more to kind of inoculate people with information on how to be resistant to these frauds. I also am curious, now that the first responder radio traffic is encrypted, if it would be possible to have what amounts to a police blotter similar to what the Cornell Police does on a county level, instead of having to wait for press releases, which only come out for rather extreme or noteworthy incidents, to just have a publicly available log of police or sheriff activity in the county, so people can kind of be apprised of what's going on here locally without having to resort to speculation or simply just not having any information available to them at all. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Rich, I guess it's your last meeting. I really appreciate everything you've done, both as a legislator and a member of the Public Safety Committee, and I wish you well. Thank you very much. I yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you. And then we have Amanda Kirschkestner.
Hello. I'm going to continue my lobby against the COG because financial responsibility is a public safety issue, especially when looking at bonding large sums of money for things that we want relative to things that we need. And we absolutely need an improved public safety building. Why do we need a newly improved public safety building? Because they're being made to contain all of the issues that nobody else has figured out how to deal with. So many of the folks in our county jail are struggling with active drug dependency and active mental health crises. And it's not that the sheriff wants them within his purview, but he is winding up with a lot of our most extreme cases because the hospital won't admit people. I sat in on sessions where academics were saying they would be admitted for a month at a time at the hospital, when last year I was going there almost daily with individuals who were being brought there by law enforcement who weren't getting admitted. So jail becomes the only other alternative that we have locally. So before we proceed with building a fancy new government building, the design looks great, we absolutely need to focus on our responsibility to help provide for the people who are in the most desperate of places. And that means providing the sheriff with the resources that they need in order to produce a much safer jail so that they can actually apply staff in a way that allows them to provide better resources for containment. This raise the age has really put them in a bind. I know that personnel have been hurt up there. And as much as I don't want to see people in jail, if we're going to have a jail, we need to have a facility that can actually deal with all of the subsets of populations that we're currently being made to deal with in a jail. Or we can board them out, which costs us a lot more. But You know, so my wish would be for us to not proceed with the COG and to actually put the resources. If we're going to put those kinds of resources into our county, we need to put it into a building that actually allows us to responsibly care for people who come into county custody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and Rich, I know we don't agree on just about anything, but I know your heart's in the right place, and I will miss seeing you in this chambers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to address the Public Safety Committee? All right. Seeing none, we'll proceed. And actually, we have several department heads. Do you want to come up to the main table? So I'd like to try to see if we can engage in more discussion today. So I'll presume. Next item is chair's report. I do not have a chair's report today. And we'll proceed to county administrator's report. Corso, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry for being late. I was caught in a meeting that went longer than I was planning to be there for. So I don't have a lot of items to go through. I just want to inform you we are actively recruiting for the countywide security team. Our hope is to be able to complete a full complement of the staff that we approve by the end of the year. And then we'll have staff ready for the ledge meetings going forward in 2026. So that is ongoing at the moment, and we are hopeful about where we are at the moment. We are also working with DSS and engaging in terms of the security team, working with DSS to be able to bring more of a collaborative front towards the countywide security efforts. And that conversation is also going very well. And we are hopeful that by second quarter of next year, we have clarity in terms of security planning and reporting. And we'll be able to come back to you with our expectations and how we intend going forward in terms of the countrywide security reporting and architecture. So I wish you very well.
Okay.
It's been a year of excitement, and sad to see you throw your heart in, but I'm excited for the things that you have ahead of you, and looking forward to the new ones coming in to work with us. And the work of the county continues.
Yeah, as you're coming up to your anniversary, you've kind of had one look at the seasons, so it should get easier, I hope.
Absolutely, it's been very, very quiet for me this year, and I'm looking forward to a more quieter year in 2026.
I don't think you're going to get that wish.
No,
but I will put you on the spot to say, do you have any holiday wishes? We talked about this at our last Public Safety Committee meeting. At least I did. I was hoping people could chime in with what they would think about for public safety in 2026 and beyond.
So for holiday wish, I'm happy that we were able to provide a good place for people to go to at the roadway right at the beginning of this month, and we have had very good responses so far with the community engagement and good feedback with the way Volunteers of America are handling the space. So I think we made a good decision with that. It's important for us to continue to improve the way we provide services to our most vulnerable population, and my wish is for us to continue to provide those services and meet people where they are. I was very happy to note today that somebody donated a Christmas tree for the Cherry Street shelter, and I can't wait to be there to celebrate Christmas with anyone who will be spending Christmas over there, and I'm excited.
Okay. Good. Okay, any questions for the county administrator? All right. Next up is our sheriff. And why don't we start out with your resolution? This is authorization to contract with Dr. Marshall Trebot for jail medical services, 3-year contract, ID 13742. Lee moves. Shauna seconds. Sheriff, do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, this is pretty routine, Rich. This is, we contract for a medical physician for our incarcerated folks in our correctional facility, and this is just a continuation of his contract with us and to continue his services. So it's pretty simple and straightforward, and we go through this, I think, once a year, if not every other year.
Okay. I had a chance to speak with you while we were waiting to start the meeting, so I've asked my questions. Does anybody else have questions about this contract? Shauna?
Yeah, I wanted to see how many hours per week this includes and if he comes on site.
He comes on site. I believe it's mentioned in the contract. I think it says a minimum of 6 hours, possibly.
Yeah,
I know Rich at least brought that up. But Shauna, he is here quite frequently, and he's reachable by phone 24/7.
Okay. And then I did want to ask if we did an RFP.
I don't believe we did not do an RFP this time around. I don't know what the requirements are for that routinely. He's been our jail physician for a number of years now, and I do know from the past that physicians taking on these assignments are very difficult to find.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And my understanding was a personal services contract such as this, you have some discretion, that you don't have to go to an RFP. Yeah, okay. And Sheriff, if I can put you on the spot and say, do you have any holiday wishes for 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, before I get into that, if I could just respond to Zach's comments quickly. The police blotter, that's an excellent idea. We do post our incidences on our website, I believe on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, but we continue to work on our incident portal, on our transparency hub. So hopefully within this year, we had hoped to get it done by the end of 2025, but it's been impossible. That we'll move forward with that again in 2026. As far as victimization of the elderly, we do try to put out public safety notices on our social media. But, you know, in thinking about that, it's probably not having the impact or reaching the audience like we would like it to using that avenue. So I definitely would like to look into more of that and how we can get the message out in a better and more consistent way. So those were points good taken. As far as my wish list, yeah, of course I have a lot of them. We definitely need a new building, as we've talked about for a number of years now, not just for our inmates, but also for our staff. We're extremely cramped up here and having a lot of issues conducting programs, training, things of that nature. In fact, I'd love extended training facilities or space. I would love to run my own corrections academy. That's an area that turnover is a little higher than our road patrol, so the ability to train correction officers here right on site to meet the needs of our community instead of sending them off to other counties to do that work, I think that would be an excellent idea. We mentioned briefly our nursing staffing in the jail. We definitely need another nurse to meet the needs we're facing. And from a community standpoint, it's always been my dream to be able to have enough staffing on our road patrol to have a deputy assigned to each of our 4 patrol zones, all 3 shifts. I think that would go a long way in reducing our response times and also increase our ability to conduct more community-oriented policing. So that's my top of my list.
Okay, a good list.
Yeah.
Questions or comments for the sheriff on his report or even on his wishes? Lee?
How often, Derek, are you without the 4th one?
It's almost all the time. All the time. Yeah.
And are they, is it more a function of fulfilling time off requests and so on, or are they on special details that pull them from the zone?
All the above. We have so much going on, Lee, that, first of all, our staffing levels, what they are, it impacts it. And, by the time you have a full complement and then you take off vacation time, and if somebody's ill or whatever, or working a special detail, like you mentioned, that all comes out of that complement and further reduces our actual coverage.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Huh? All right, let's keep going.
Vote on the resolution.
Oh,
Vote on the resolution.
right.
We had a
Right,
mover.
we moved it?
Yep, we had a
Then we
mover.
got talking and see?
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments on the resolution? We ready to vote?
Dr. Travolt's got a great reputation, and I think he's a good compliment to the staff up there.
Okay. All right, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Great. Great. Anything else?
And before you move on, Rich, if I could just say, I know it is your last meeting, so I'm not blowing smoke because you are leaving, so I have no benefit, but it's been a real pleasure working with you over the last 7 years since I've been sheriff. I think we've had a lot of good successes that we've all partnered on with not just you, but other legislators. I've seen huge crime reductions, I think, gunshot incidences. Our inmate levels have stayed consistently low, absent the state strike we had to deal with. And I know you were a big advocate of alternatives to incarceration, and you worked on that before I was even in office. And I know that's had a huge impact on our facility up here, our inmates' lives, and our community as a whole. So just thank you for that time. I've considered you a true partner, and you'll certainly be missed.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna hit back at the end with my wish list, but I appreciate the comments. Okay. Let's keep going. Matt, our district attorney, welcome.
Thanks, Rich. Last time we were here, I talked about the victim advocate position, that we had lost the funding for that, and then a couple days later, I found out that we got a one-year funding grant from DCJS, different source, but it's going to accomplish the same thing. So that's a really positive piece of news. So I've moved ahead, and I think the job is posted now. I'm hopeful to fill it soon and have somebody up and running in early 2026.
That really is good news. I was so happy to hear that. My one concern is what happens in 27.
Well, there is the 3-year grant, which we've been encouraged to reapply for. That's what we had initially, and that is going to be reconsidered in 26, so we'll be reapplying for that. That would actually get us 4 years out, and hopefully we'll be able to keep it going after that.
Okay. That is very good news, and that ticks off one of the wish list items. Yeah.
When I was walking in the building this morning, they were unloading scaffolding to try to work on the ceiling of the main courtroom in the county courthouse. That has been out of commission for probably almost 2 months now, and it will be a real problem if it is out of commission for a long time in 26. There's cracking in the plaster around the main chandelier, which is very big and heavy. So I'm hopeful that that will be addressed and we'll be able to use that room. We do have a trial. I have a trial scheduled for January 5th that is a one defendant trial. That's what most trials are. And we could do that in the Supreme Court room, which is next door. It's cramped, but we can do it. On the 19th of January, there's a trial with 2 defendants that probably would not be possible in the smaller courtroom. So I guess I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but in the perfect world, we'd have the main courtroom up and running again by then. So we'll see what happens with that. So I guess those are my updates. I, again, want to echo what Derek mentioned. I can't remember someone else being the chair of public safety since I've been the DA, and your steady leadership and clearly you care about this topic and the values that we care about in Tompkins County in terms of ATIs and doing the right thing for the public and public safety. So thank you for all the time and hours and effort that you put in over the last however many years. I don't know how many it is, but I hope you do something great with the time that you're gaining as you move on to the next chapter. But thank you.
Well, thank you again for those comments. I guess your wishes involve a ceiling.
That's my short-term wish, a ceiling and heat in my office. I would love that. And more broadly, we didn't get a grant that I wanted to get for a restorative justice program, but we're still talking in the community. I'm talking with URO and Tali Mugambi about doing something in terms of a restorative justice program. We might have a test case to use in the short term, but that's on my wish list for 2026.
Great. Okay. Questions or comments for our district attorney? Lee.
Question for you, Matt. I think your wish at the first of the year was full staffing and filling a position that was open. Can you tell us how if your wishes were fulfilled and how that's transpired over the last few months?
We have had a full staff of attorneys for, I think, since May, and that's working out really well. We have two of the attorneys are new, in the sense that they're brand newly admitted and licensed. So they are primarily in city court where they're handling a high volume of cases, but they're all misdemeanor level cases. And they're working out really well, fitting into the team. The most recent member of our team came to us after a few months, or I think 6 months, working in the Oswego County Public Defender's Office. So I think everybody in my office of the 9 attorneys, including myself, has been a defender, a public defender, or represented indigent people in their career, which is really valuable and important to me, being able to look at both sides of the aisle and have more perspective as a prosecutor. But yeah, we're hopeful that we're going to keep a full staff for as long as I can see into the future.
That's good. Good to hear.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have the Department of Emergency Response. Michael, welcome.
Good afternoon. Sorry I'm late. I had another meeting and I tried to get down here as soon as I could, but I had an opportunity to listen to the meeting. So, excuse me, I just want to touch on the security program. I know that Corsa had given an overview, but I want to let you know that we did onboard a new security officer on Monday. So that brings us up to 3. We transitioned one of our part-timers to full-timers, so we still have 3 openings. We had to move to a new hiring list because we exhausted the previous list because there's a number of entities that utilize that list. So right now we have interviews scheduled for January 5th. And we're pretty excited about that. And as of today, we only posted 2 weeks ago, we have 18 applicants on, and that's going to be on the help program, the help list. So that's really encouraging for a number of reasons. So I'm really excited about that. So also wanted to touch on the fact that I did announce this about, I think it was 2 meetings ago when we were first made aware of it, but Patrick Harris, excuse me, one of our 911 dispatchers was selected as the dispatcher of the year for the Mid-Atlantic region. It's, encompasses over 8 states, and we're really proud of Pat, and it's the 3rd time in 4 years that one of our dispatchers has won that award. So I just thought it was really nice to, bring it to the attention of the committee again today, since it is in the report, and he was in Connecticut just a few weeks ago to receive that award. The other thing that's really exciting is Joe Milliman in a few minutes will touch on a very high level on a national research project that he was invited to participate in for EMS. And then Joe had an opportunity to present that recently in New York Vital Sign Conference, but he was invited to go to the national conference to also present. Unfortunately, had a conflict, but it's just nice to see that we have some folks in our department that are, being recognized both regionally and nationally for the skill set that they bring to their individual disciplines. A few months ago, I also mentioned that we started to, that we had been accepted or approved to receive a number of assets from the state. So it is a grant, but it was not a grant in which we received funding for, but instead we're receiving physical assets. That includes light towers, sign messaging boards, a water buffalo, which is a 500-gallon stainless steel tank that is designed for potable water in the event of like a flood, and we need to have make potable water available to our community, sandbag fillers, et cetera. So we started to take delivery of that equipment. This also includes generators, trash pumps to pump out basements if necessary. So over the last month, we started to receive that equipment, and we're going through the process now of getting it all operational, getting it asset tagged, and then eventually we'll make sure that all of our public safety partners are aware of this equipment. So if they need it, it's available. So a good example is the light towers. It's not an asset that we had in the county, typically something that needed to be rented. So an immediate need where it could be used is, the highway department might have an overnight job where they could use it. We can deliver it to them and have them use it. Also, the fire departments will sometimes utilize fire trucks to stand by at scenes in the middle of the night for the purpose of lighting only to assist in a law enforcement investigation. So this is something that we could deploy to them so we don't have to utilize that resource. So we're really pretty excited about that. Once all the equipment comes in, we're going to take a photograph of all of it, including this Tomstat report, and then I'll give a complete report back to the Public Safety Committee with all the equipment that we've received.
Is there storage space for it all?
No, not really. No, there's not, but there's a number of initiatives that are underway. So we're in the process of purchasing a Connex container, a 40-foot, some people refer to it as a C box. It's a 9-foot high Connex container. They're not typically very expensive, but we should be accepting delivery of that on the 22nd of the month, and that will hold most of it. And the reason we went with the 9-footer versus a standard 8-footer was because we'll be able to put the light towers in there, for example. We won't know the exact height of the signboards until we get them, but our hope is that we'll be able to put them in there as well. So. And
that'll be sited in a secure space, I assume?
It will. Yes, and we're likely going to buy a second one, but rather than a 40-footer, a 20-footer, because our goal is to maybe have them sort of positioned around the county, so not just in one location, so they'll be accessible to, again, partners that might need them, and if in a particular part of the county is cut off, they'll also be able to get some of those resources out. But it was too good of an opportunity to pass up, so figured we'd work on storage later. So. Wish list, we can look at.
Let's hold off. Let's see if there's questions about your report,
okay.
And then we're going to go to wishes, and I'd love to hear from your department more broadly too.
Absolutely.
But questions? I have a couple.
Sure.
One was for Joe. That was really interesting statistics between the call volume where an ALS provider is necessary versus not. And I was wondering, did your study try to develop any ideas on how those percentages could be brought closer together?
So our specific study did not. We left that up as a future study that we could circle back to. Really what we were looking at is how can local systems use our data with their local policies to maybe change the way they dispatch, how they can better utilize resource management, and maybe even change some of their local protocols. So some of our high frequency, low risk ALS skills could potentially become a BLS skill to save the paramedic for more severe calls.
Okay. Yeah. And then I was hoping you could comment a little bit about the article that was in on body cameras for EMS providers. I thought that was a really good description of the pros and cons. In reading it, ultimately, I think that body cameras would be a benefit, but it really does depend on the overall management, that there's consensus that they're going to be used for the purpose of improving performance and not as a disciplinary or litigation tool. But certainly we've had body cameras in other public safety contexts, and I think they've helped us, and they've certainly helped with improving public trust in our public safety system. So I hope that is something that, is considered as you go forward, but carefully.
And it is something we've talked quite a bit about, especially with our RMR program. These are folks that are going out there by themselves. So it is a way of protecting them, and sometimes it's a way of protecting the patient as well. I think we have to be very conscientious about it, and I think it's going to have to be something we have to give serious thought to over the next year or so, but it is becoming a trend, and I think that the benefits far outweigh the cons. But I agree with you, it wouldn't be designed as a disciplinary tool necessarily, but certainly just as a tool to help protect both the provider and the patients.
Yeah. Shauna.
I was wondering, since it's dealing with the mental health and or substance use and the healthcare of people, if there's even more protection
There are.
through that than,
Yes.
than a regular body cam?
Absolutely. Because of the HIPAA rules, there would be enhanced, so the server would have to be set up slightly different than maybe necessarily the way a law enforcement server is, and who can access that data. It wouldn't necessarily, couldn't be foiled, for example, so that would be something that's a little bit different as well. But yeah, there would absolutely, and there are organizations that specialize in that, so I think we would look towards a vendor that really specializes in body cams for healthcare providers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question.
And I agree with you. That's quite a distinction for Patrick Harris. The
Yeah, so
award's
really
impressive.
proud. Yeah.
I had one other question. On page 12, you're showing the November 2025 law enforcement calls for service, and it shows 782 coming out of TC3. And that seemed quite high.
So TC3 recently joined the Spillman Flex system. That's our CAD RMS system. So they're still working through some of their processes, but really just prior to a few months ago, they were doing all paper logging. So they approached the EROC Law Enforcement Subcommittee to see if they could join it. So I think that's part of it. And I think they're documenting differently than I think some of our township departments and city departments are. Yeah.
And that, I assume that maybe would then encompass some testing of the system.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. All right. I was saying, what's going on at TC3? But, all right. Wish list.
I mean, I would start off with just, wishing health and prosperity for our entire team. I really mean that. All of our positions are very high stressed, and, just making sure that we have a really good, solid team going into next year. Jokingly mentioned about, our space in our building, because you had asked about where we're going to put this equipment. Our scope has changed quite a bit, so I think at some point in time, we're going to have to probably look at that. But I mean, obviously, that's a wish list, and I know there's a lot of other priorities outside of what our needs are. But again, our mission has changed quite significantly over the last couple of years between EMS and now bringing on security. So I did forget to mention that with the new budget, you also approved an additional dispatcher, and I wanted you to know that we've already posted that position, and we'll be doing interviews for that as well in early January, and that too is on the HELP program. And the HELP program has been an incredible success for us as a department and the type of talent that we've been able to get. And I'm not sure I've ever really necessarily highlighted this, but I think what we're doing with the HELP program really helps to bridge some gaps. So, for example, as of today, we have 19 applications, and every single one of those individuals will be offered an interview, and that's what we have done since we've started the HELP program. Because in the past, with the civil service process, we could only interview those folks that really were at the top of the list. And we've realized that didn't necessarily provide certain individuals with, opportunities. So the HELP program, again, has just been really successful for us and the type of talent we've been able to get. So I'm really excited about it. So thank you
for the benefit of the public, could you just describe the HELP program a little bit?
Sure. So outside of the normal civil service process, which would require an individual to take an exam, they would earn a value based on the score that they get on their exam. As a department, we would only be able to interview folks that were towards the top of the list. So there could be people that are testing repeatedly, but just never even get a chance for an interview because, you're constantly looking at the folks at the top of the list who aren't necessarily always the best candidate, but sometimes you're compelled to make an offer to them simply because you have a position that you have to fill and you have to roll the dice. And in the past, only had a 30% success rate, not just us, really across the board in New York when it comes to dispatcher training. And our success rate has been much better. In fact, in January, we're going to provide some data that will reflect that. And initially it was much higher, but we've had some people that have had to self-eliminate. They come into the department and they think it's one way and it turns out to be something completely different. We've changed the way we interview. For example, we also allow people now to come in and do a 2-hour observation during the interview process. That's proven to be very helpful as well, because sometimes people come in and say, wow, this is not at all what I expected. We recently had a fire chief visit us and he left and he said, I had no idea how complex this job really was. And as part of my wish list is to have every single fire chief sit for 2 hours in our dispatch center and see what it's really like. Because sometimes, our community partners can be very critical of the work that we do, and a lot of it is just not understanding the work that we do. So I think that would be part of what I'd love to see. And we'd make that opportunity available, but not everybody takes us up on that offer. But yeah, so I'm really excited about that. But I just wanted you to know we're not letting that paint dry. You approved the position, and we got the approval from admin to move forward, and we've already got that position posted.
Great. Shauna.
Yeah, I'll say that was probably one of my favorite, I guess it's not a ride along, it's a sit along. Yeah. And was just watching your staff, and the night that I was there, there were 2 different situations where they were dealing with individuals that were suicidal. And you saw one person over here that was dealing with one person, another person maybe 10 feet away dealing with another person. And it was just constant calls, reaching out to the care team, reaching out to the deputy. Just the coordination. And afterwards, even for someone who's watching it on the outside, it was definitely like emotionally exhausting. So I don't know how your people do it day in and day out. And definitely the utmost respect come from people that are responding, because there is an emotional element to this job that I think a lot of people don't understand. And I'm glad that people that are, seeing the listing, the job listing and thinking, oh, that would be great, a government job, I'll sit there and do nothing or whatever. I'm glad that they're able to actually see what the job entails and get some experience before they say yes to the job and decide they want to do it.
Thank you for those comments. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Other wishes?
I think that's it.
Okay, how about from Danielle, Jessica, or Joe?
As far as wishes?
Yeah.
A multifunctional fire training center would be my wish.
Yes, okay. That is a good one. Joe?
I would change that to say multifunctional first response training center to include EMS.
Yes, that would work.
I would love to see further discussions on the expansion of the EMS program and where it can take us in the future.
Okay, appreciate that. Danielle?
My wish is going to be centered around the mental health resources that are available for first responders and having culturally competent providers that are truly accessible for everybody to meet them where they are. And then be able to develop and implement a therapy dog program that can go into different buildings. And right now we currently have the SISM team that is more aimed at first responders, but developing a SISM team that is available and accessible by all county departments when things happen would be what I would wish for.
Okay, thank you for all that. Questions or comments from anybody else on those? Okay, I see a lot of nodding heads. Thank you. And then I believe we're up to the Department of Probation and Community Justice. Dan, welcome.
Thank you. First, I'd like to apologize for missing last month's meeting. I was having technical difficulties, and
I know you were partly there, but Zoom was not helping you.
I was getting kicked off about every 45 seconds, so I finally gave up, but I apologize for that. We just went through promotional opportunity within our department. That's rare. We have a new leadership in our day reporting program that we're very excited about. We're going to take that program to new heights, I believe, with the current package of individuals that we have over there, so that's exciting for me. I appreciate Corsa allowing me to backfill for the new probation officer position that's been vacated as a result of the promotion. It's busy times. Part of our equity indicator, our department identified that we wanted to look into disproportionate negative outcomes for people of color that are under supervision. Applied to the state of New York for grant funding for a study into that, and have been approved for that grant funding with 2 professors from the University of Albany that are going to help us explore those outcomes, factors that may be contribute to that, or be causal factors, so that we can remedy those things and try to have better outcomes for everyone that we serve in the community. So I'm very excited about that. I'll keep you abreast of developments with that, but we should be starting that very early 2026 with an estimate of 12 to 18 months of investigation into the data to come up with some outcomes. So as updates are available, I'll update the committee. Looking forward to the holidays. It's a busy time of year. It's a tough time of year for a lot of our clientele, so we try to keep as many hands on deck as we can, while also allowing staff to have time for their own families and activities. But we're very attuned to the fact that this is a difficult time of year for the population that we serve, so we try to be very available for them. And I appreciate my staff making some sacrifices to be there to take care of what we need to do for the county and for our people. I just wanted to thank you, Rich. You're the only Public Safety Committee chair that I've known in my 6-year tenure, so thank you for everything that you've done. We've looked at a lot of things, a lot of challenges, not always agreed on everything, but I really appreciate the thought that goes into the process in this committee and the support that I've received, and even when I haven't been supported, to be thought-provoking and to really explore what the best things are for our community and for my department. So thank you and everyone on Public Safety Committee who's been working on those things under your leadership.
Again, thank you for the kind words. Do you have any holiday wishes for us?
A lot of holiday wishes.
Have at it.
You said come up with 5. I think I came up with about 12, so I'll try to keep it to 2 or 3 like everyone else has. I wish we had more robust access to mental health services and substance abuse treatment services for people in the community. I really think that availability and accessibility for those forms of treatment has dwindled probably to the lowest level in the 26 years that I've been here. We've had a lot more people who seem to have needs in those areas and a lot less resources. I've never been a fan of telemedicine for creating connections with clients. I really think it's a mistake, and I'd really like to see people have access to meeting one-on-one, developing a rapport with a counselor that's meaningful and helps them make positive changes in their lives. So I would like to see those things enhanced. I'd like to see a 25-year retirement bill for my staff who are Tier 5 and Tier 6 employees. It does not impact myself or the other Tier 4s. We've talked about this both at the state level and the county level. I believe as more and more new people come into the field that are Tier 6s, it's a real disincentive to have to work 40 years in a profession in order to be able to retire, and to be able to do so with your mental health intact after dealing with hundreds, if not thousands, of people's trauma over the course of a career. It is being discussed at the state level. There is some slippery traction, some winter road traction happening up there, but at least it's being discussed, and we're discussing at the county level. I really think for recruitment and retention of the quality people that we want to have working in Tompkins County and doing the quality work, it's going to become a necessity in the very near future. So I appreciate the consideration of that. Another wish, I hope all community partners and people that we engage with, both who are county employees, not-for-profits, educators, that everyone that contributes to what we're trying to do to help people raise themselves up, know that they're appreciated. I had written down a handful of names of unsung heroes, but if I mention those 8 or 10 names I have, I'll leave out 100 other people, so I'm not going to mention any names, but just appreciate the community collaboration that Tompkins County encourages, and it makes a difference, even though oftentimes it's frustrating, difficult work, and we're not getting where we'd like to. We're making progress and doing so with compassion, and that matters.
Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Thank you. I see Carla is there. Carla.
She wishes I'd shut up. That's what she would.
I apologize. I'm having some trouble with my video, so I'm sorry I'm not on the screen.
That's okay.
Really, I think my only thing, kind of to echo what Mike said, is just I'm really looking for a good year for our staff. We've had a lot of people here in the department that had a tough year this year. They've lost loved ones, they've lost parents. We have somebody right now who's going through just an awful ordeal. So I'm just really hoping for a better year next year for everybody.
Okay. All right. Lee.
I'll throw a question over to Shauna. The 25-year retirement, has that been something you've heard discussed at NISAC level, or I could throw that at Rich too?
I have not heard word one at Public Safety about that issue.
Yeah, there actually was, I think it is in our county priorities. They were talking about pension rates, and they have been talking about tier 6. I'm at tier 6 at this point. You would do better off working at Walmart than in government, because the pension and retirement is just so awful. I think I did see that. Let me look at my notes here.
Tier 6 takes them up to 62 for a full retirement, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And there was something recently too about dispatch being included in the 25 and out program too. So I don't know if you've heard anything more about that.
No.
I know it's out there. I know it's floating around.
I have seen that.
It's on,
I
it's on that same
probation.
slippery road that Dan was mentioning.
Yeah. It's really important in small departments, medium-sized departments with the sort of a pyramidal structure where there's only a few seats at the top of the pyramid, which are the higher paying, higher responsibility jobs. When you have people who've been in the field 15, 20, 25 years who are ready and would do an amazing job in those positions, but they can't even get to those spots because they don't open up in time before they themselves need to consider their own retirement planning. And again, it does not impact tier 4s. We're fine. I believe we were the last tier that really, of the retirement system that really is strong for state employees and is a good draw for people to come into these difficult jobs.
Yeah. I know for us, the younger they are, the less likely they are to stay. In fact, our department is often used as a stepping stone into law enforcement and fire. It's a good opportunity to build a resume. And despite our efforts to try to find somebody that would like to do it as a career, again, being tier 6 and thinking that you get hired at 25, that's a long time to do that job and sit in that chair.
Yeah, and eventually we would wind up with people who had 25 years and were, in their late 50s or 60s who were still doing field work where they're going out in the community. Our population has always been 18 to 25-year-olds is the biggest chunk of probation population. So even to develop a rapport with a person that you're trying to help, if they're young and they're looking at you as old and curmudgeonly and you don't know what you're talking about. Harder to make that connection, and it's more dangerous to be out in the field when, again, I've said this before, not everyone ages the same. Some people are 60 years old and run marathons. Some people are 60 years old and need canes. But those people in Tier 6 will not have an option to, depending on their health, they're going to have to stay and do a difficult and potentially dangerous job when they're in there in later years. It's a very, very huge disincentive for people to enter this field, and it's not just in Tompkins County. It's COPA Area 2, which encompasses 10 or 11 counties. It was the big topic of last month's conversation that many counties didn't even have anyone take their civil service list test for probation officers, so they have no one to pick from. We were fortunate enough to have some people take a test, and we have a list to work from when we need staff, but that's not always going to be the case as younger people choose more lucrative careers that give them more mobility.
Okay. Anything further for Dan? Yeah. Lance, welcome. Assigned counsel.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have a lot to update this month. Everything's kind of continuing as it has been. Our numbers are okay. They're up. Family court's a big issue for us. Our criminal numbers, and you'll see this. Well, Rich won't, but I'll email him to him just so he doesn't feel left out. In January, you'll see our annual numbers for criminal side have stayed pretty stable. Family court's been a known issue for us that. For us, increases cost, but attorney time, those eat up a lot of attorney time, which does impact our criminal cases sometimes because attorneys tend to do both. They only have so much bandwidth there. But otherwise, we're in good shape. We're kind of just chugging along. Yet monitor and hysteria.
Okay.
We're next door for those. We're right there. Yet. Sorry, I'm making fun of my clients, some of them, on that. My wish list, a couple of things. One is I'll follow up on what Dan said. I think the mental health, access to accessible mental health is a real issue and contributes to people struggling and getting into trouble. It's hard to access a number of the points, access points. We need more there. I agree with Dan. I think particularly for mental health, in-person counseling produces much better outcomes than trying to do telehealth with someone who's mentally ill, struggling with mental health issues. It doesn't seem to be as effective for at least some of our clients. So that'd be a wish list. Tier 6 is an issue, I think, more particularly for some professions, but I know it doesn't affect my department so much. I've got somebody who's a tier 4 or 3, I think, and I'm very jealous. But I know statewide for PD officers and prosecutors, it's an issue too. Tier 6 makes it incredibly hard to recruit because they look at that and they're just roll their, And I remember when I was in college, the idea of public employment is you might get paid a little less or you're going to, but the benefit was you would have this retirements at the end that you were working towards, whether you were a teacher or working in government or something, and that's really kind of slid back, which would be nice to fix. I realize that's a money issue for counties in the state, but that would be nice. My last thing, kind of a thought or policy issue, let me preface this because I've known Derek for decades professionally, and I really trust and respect him. Even when I had to cross-examine him, I think Chief Kelly, I don't know as well, but similar. But it would be interesting, and what drove this for me, because I have less concerns, frankly, about internal in-county, what they're doing. But one of the things that drove me for this was reading recently a Texas county went into flock in some of these data, but trying to track a woman nationally because they suspected she'd traveled to get either abortion pills or get an abortion. And so they could try to prosecute her. And my concern is when we're going to see more of these types of things for an activity that'd be perfectly legal here or in much of the county. That it might be useful to have a small select group, someone like racial or someone like people like that, or that aren't intimately involved. Think about our policies, because I think the only weakness we have in terms of access to our data are external agencies asking to access it, and how we, is there a way to vet that? Because I think you're going to see more of that type of thing. Activities, types of policing we may not be comfortable with. And I think you're probably going to get more public pushback from the community as, what is that, is that coming here? It might be useful to have some people think about that in terms of a policy and on that, just how they access stuff. And in terms of the county, it might promote that because there are the local communities that do that. I have no idea how they're accessing their what they're doing, but and it may give Derek some more thought or support there in terms of how he makes decisions. I love reading in the national media when they're critical of him over decisions, they think he made that when he's actually just following state law, which people don't bother to know. But that'd be one issue there.
Okay. Well, thank you. Those are all good ideas.
And can I just briefly, I said this at ABIR, but to thank you. You've been a long, this is our day to embarrass you, everyone embarrass you, but you've been a long champion of assigned counsel and the program in general, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Let's march on. Jennifer, I see you're with us. And I wanted to give you a chance if you had any special wishes for 2026 and beyond. If I can put you on the spot.
No, I think Derek and I start out every year hoping that it's a quiet year, and we've come to realize it's something we shouldn't wish for and shouldn't say because it never happens. So I'm thankful to work with Derek and the people at the Sheriff's Office and the people in this community and county, and I know we'll get through whatever we face. So just keep supporting one another is all I wish for.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think we're up to committee member reports, and I'd call on my colleagues. Any reports or wishes? Shauna.
Yeah, I have a few. I have four. My first one was funding and solutions for Raise the Age. We've been talking about this since I started the legislature, and I remember we heard about it in August and were told that at the end of October we had to make accommodations, and I was sitting right here. And we since have still not received guidance. We still have not received funding, and it's in the NISAC priorities, again for the 8th year. So hopefully we receive some guidance on that. The second thing is definitely the rapid response medical. I'm really excited to actually see that program grow. I think that it has definitely done what we set out for it to do, and that's to help people in our rural areas. I foresee it expanding, and, at some point, we talked about with the report we received, it going countywide, and I do think that's probably where we're headed, and I hope that we can continue the path and having the conversations, because what I'm afraid is that the need's going to grow so big, and we're not going to have planned and have the actual ambulances in place, the people in place, and I'd rather us figure it out before everything kind of falls by the wayside and falls through the cracks. Because that's when we're going to have people, unfortunately, this is kind of a life-saving situation, and I think we really have to prioritize that. So, and then the other thing that I think is related to all of the work that we're doing in public safety is the housing stock, increasing healthcare, and then the thing that probably drives most of the reason why we have people that are struggling is the mental health and the substance use disorder.
Okay. Veronica.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a wish list that other people have said most of the things that are on it. Actually, I added some things on it because people reminded me. So in some order, one, I'd love to see more diversion of people from the criminal legal system, which we do a lot already, but that could totally be ramped up, including we're doing like pie in the sky, which is a little bit, I'd love to see some sort of civilian emergency response team, like not police, and also not EMS, not fire, but like a whole fourth thing, because I think there's a whole category of needs and calls that right now the police are speaking in the county, like Derek and Jen's staff are tasked with that, like they don't really need to be spending their time on, including, I wish, Matt, for you to get your restorative justice grant and start working on that. I wish for more, broadly, more robust support of people's basic needs throughout the county. So that includes, like others have mentioned, the mental health support and substance use disorder treatment. And I think that even like I have oddly a large number of friends who are therapists. I don't know why, but something like they say is that yes, people have like trauma and mental health issues and all these sorts of things that are like, that mental health treatment is like the thing that is appropriate for that. And also it's often compounded with or exacerbated by more material needs that a therapist can never meet and are gonna, like unstable housing, like just not having enough money to pay for stuff. So just more of that, like focusing on the social determinants of health. Probably won't calm anything down in 2026, unfortunately. So I'm sorry to the undersheriff for that, but in like 2045, 2050, I think from that perspective, the time to prevent crime in 2050 is now. I want to see the countywide EMS, or I don't want to use, what do you call it? Hot button words, but the EMS system in the county, however it looks to continue to progress and integrate. I know I liked the vision that their consultant outlined in the like preliminary presentation was that last month? Yeah, the sort of like where we are looking years from now. What Danielle said about expanding the CISM team, but like to sort of resilient support for all county employees. I love that, would like to see that. Including therapy dogs. Congrats to Luna, I saw in your report, for being certified as a psychiatric service dog. And I would like us to ditch the flock cameras, or I guess I'd love for this county to not have networked AI-powered surveillance cameras, and as long as we're wishing, like, that is my wish. I know that the county contract only has some of them. And on a practical level, I'd love to, but I don't wish to like stop fighting gun-involved violence. And so I'd love to look at what, can we move those funds into more community-based interventions that don't have these big security leaks that Lance alluded to and others have talked about. Those are my wishes.
A healthy list. That's great. Lee, do you have anything?
Couple of things.
Okay.
Everybody's provided a pretty good lead into this, and one area I think I touched on earlier was safety indicators, and we've really invested a lot over the last 6, 8, 10 years into criminal justice and ATI activities and other initiatives, rapid medical response, security, additional help in the public safety realm. And I'd like for us to be able to point to some indicators from time to time to find out, are these multi-million-dollar investments that we've made into our systems and departments and initiatives resulting in a safer community? I think the answer is yes, but I don't have anything good to point to along that line. And when we've reduced, have we reduced recidivism? Those people that are back out on the street, are they seeing some success in the programs that we've developed? Shootings, I think we have had some success there. I don't hear the issues that we did before the cameras and in some of the other patrols and task forces and assignments. Is that a good thing? I don't know. Can I point to something? Violent crimes, domestics, DWI. We've got a lot of programs and done some restructuring along those lines. Where do we stand compared to other counties our size and affluence or areas that maybe aren't quite as affluent? Are we getting first response where we need to? Are there some saves out there that are happening? I think so. But what can we point to? So, as a representative and, having gone through this budget process, I'd love to be able to go back to the constituents and say that, for this incremental increase in your property taxes and the initiatives we've done, that we can point to some success in Tompkins County. We do a lot with equity indicators. We look at a lot of budget indicators. What are the safety indicators out there? That's number one. Number two really goes to the EMS system, and I share with my colleagues here the feeling that, we've got to be looking ahead and seeing how that provision of services can be improved. But similar to what we've done with the jail public safety building, and the fact that that a few years ago the numbers were high, the expenses were high. We took a different tack than some other counties may have done by investing into the ATI programs, and the numbers tell a story there. Set aside the safety part, but I really think that we're missing the boat, and I'm hearing some themes here today on looking at the root causes of what's driving the EMS stress and call volumes. And a lot of it comes down to, if we looked at it, falls in the homes among a population that's beginning to grow older, is significantly growing older, mental health, time and time again, substance abuse, and a lack of primary care providers in our community. And a lot of the stress in this EMS system and the response is based on the fact that the emergency rooms have become the destination of first choice or only choice, where when I got into this business 40 years ago, you didn't go to the ER unless you absolutely had to and things were severe. Now everybody goes there. And that's what's driving a lot of the problems in trying to keep the rigs on the road and the paramedics running. And I think a big chunk of that comes back to, as Dan has alluded to, and others here today, Lance, the mental health situation. We've got very limited resources out there. And I'm continuing to be disappointed over the programs that we were looking at as far as other facilities that would be established in the county to take the load from some of the mental health treatments and diversions, if you will. So that would be my one wish, is that, you know, how do we come up with a reduction strategy, call reduction strategy, to take out some large areas that are stressing our EMS and responders. I think it can be done, but it may mean investment into mental health and other places, and working with the healthcare industry to try to help us offload some of that. And some of that goes back to what funding streams are there, and that goes to your work, Shauna, and others at NISAC, getting Medicaid up to a point where they're paying for the true cost of the services that are out there. That's the discouragement in anybody moving forward on trying to enhance a lot of the healthcare services. So you asked, there's my answers. And yeah. Before I leave it, Rich, I want to just thank you as a fellow committee member for your stewardship of the committee. And one thing that happens here that I appreciate is the discussion and exchange of information. And again, I go back a few years, but I can remember the ringing of that's committee work. Well, this is the committee work, is for these committees to understand that the needs of our departments and department heads, and you encourage that flow of information, and I think help us to make much more deliberate decisions in what we do. And I've appreciated that leadership. I'm going to miss working with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Wow. I have some wishes, and I'll jump in with my list. Some of it's redundant. You guys have covered a lot of the ground here. I had 11 items, but one of my wishes came true, which was the victim advocate. So I'm down to 10, and I'll go through them quickly. The first is that the capital program for a new public safety building proceeds. You know, we are really looking hard at the center of government and the cost. We're going to see all of that again with the public safety building, but boy, do we need to, I believe, you know, hold the line and proceed and get there. Not just, you know, for the jail, but also for the other public safety functions that are there and the cap court, that it really is time to get to a new, highly functioning space for all those county needs. So there's that one. Number two, that the detox and crisis stabilization facility opens in 2026. That looks to be more and more of a wish at this point, which is really painful. We have looked to have this done for so long, and it's so needed and important in our community. And I'm not sure we're going to get to the finish line, which leads me to wish 3, that if the detox does not proceed, that we use the funds for a public safety training facility, as some of you mentioned, that somehow we move that money very quickly because there's time constraints, and work with all the other towns and municipalities in Tompkins County who would all pull together, I think, very quickly on this issue if we decide that's the course. And that would be a great, great thing. And then 4, amend New York State finance law to allow for flexibility in setting up EMS districts. So much of what we're struggling with trying to figure out where we go with ambulance service and better EMS services is how do we pay for it? And we really are constrained in how we can do that. And I think there's some models that have been proposed that are kicking around in Albany. I really wish they would get to the finish line on that, so that would come down to us. Number 5, I would look for our sheriff and the various police chiefs to speak with one voice on flock protections of data. I think all of the people in our community who are expressing real concerns about surveillance and civil liberties, they're right to be concerned. We're getting so many external messages that are scary about what might be happening on the national level. But everything I've seen is that at the local level, there is responsibility and there is a willingness to work to protect that data. And as long as it can be protected, as long as we don't have some national law or something that says we have to give it up, I really hope we take a hard look at protecting that tool. And for those, who legitimately say we should just get rid of it, I understand the argument. I hope there's ownership of the consequences of that decision, because there will be crimes that we can't solve. And we will see people that are, family members that will be suffering, and we'll have to look them in the eye and say, we didn't have the tool in place. Maybe it would have helped. That's going to be a really, really hard moment. I would like to see us first see if we can maintain a responsible way to keep this tool. 6, amend raise the age to allow a practical local approach on specialized secure detention. I really think it's time for New York State to give it up, that they have really defined failure in this area of not providing the resource for local communities to respond to raise the age in any dignified, humane way. We struggle. All the other counties are struggling too, at tremendous cost. We should be able to have a section up in our public safety building that is separate from sight and sound from the jail, but is secure, and we should be able to keep these youths here with us locally. 7, implement stormwater management plans throughout the county and do dredging. I really think this is the natural disaster that we're waiting to have happen, and we're not ready. It's great that we're getting the pumps. We'll need those pumps. And it is frustrating to me that it seems like it's becoming more obvious all the time as the silt builds up in our creeks and our inlet and in the surrounding communities. We really need to be ready for a bad storm event. It's happened all around us. We've been lucky. And then one closer to home here in our chambers, that the legislature considers responses to the recent amendments of the mental hygiene law. Everything about this is hard, but for those in our community who are struggling with mental illness and addiction issues, or both, that cannot properly care for themselves, I believe it's the government's duty to do something. And very, very hard, but I think it's time for the legislature to look at this issue in the eye and make some really difficult decisions. And let's see, I'm up to 9. New York State would increase probation support beyond its roughly 10%. This trend has continued for years with adding requirements from the state to probation and community justice and not increasing the funding. And it's really straining the ability to provide the quality services that we are doing. And that leads me to my last one, which is my wish is that you keep the faith. It's very nice to sit here and have you all say nice things about me. As it turns out, I like to have people say nice things about me. And it's great to hear, but we sit and watch, and it has been my privilege to see our public safety system for all these years, and just how fortunate we are on a lot of different levels. And I recognize that a good part of the public does not understand what you do, and they never will. And a lot of people react with criticism and without really any good proposals of how things could be done better. But you carry on, and you carry on in a system that none of you could do your jobs as well as you do without the cooperation that I see seat to seat, and the perseverance and the great staff you have and the dedication. It will matter more and more, I think, in the coming years, and you just do a great job. It's been a privilege to sit here and see it. And so, yeah, carry on. And I'd also say, kind of on the order of keep Tompkins County strange, that we are different. You know, we have set a course that's quite different from other counties in New York State. And frankly, I think we've allowed ourselves to be more innovative and to do some really good things, not only with our jail, but our ATIs and our attempts to address mental illness in our community, among other things. And I hope that carries on too. I hope we're really clear-eyed as we go forward, that we recognize the problems and where we do come up short, because we make mistakes like anybody else, but we address them. And I'll certainly be on the sidelines cheering you on. So that's my last wish. Just keep going. So anything further before we adjourn? Okay. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Good. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.